Right, hi everyone. I think it's about time we get started. So thanks for joining us today. I'm just going to take you through some introductory slides to tell you what we're going to be talking about. So I'm Martin Wardle from Robson Laidler, and I'm joined here by our very own Nick Wilson.
Hi everyone.
The purpose of today really is to help those in business improve their cash flow. If you're not in business and you're not starting business, this might be of limited value to you, but if you're thinking about starting a business or you're already in business, then hopefully you'll get some good information to take away. We all know that running a business can be tough. You've got to basically produce a product or a service, you've got to market it, sell it, deliver it, and then most importantly of all, make sure you get paid for it. So we're going to cover off some of those key things. Without getting into politics, you'll appreciate we're in some strange times economically at the moment. There's a lot of uncertainty, and very few business owners would basically stake all they've got on predicting what's going to happen in the coming weeks and months. So making sure you understand your cash flow is quite important. It could be the thing that can make or break your business. So what we're trying to do here is give you an introduction to make sure that you're prepared. The basis of everything we're talking about today is that you have a solid accounts platform. So HMRC are forcing change onto people in business. Starting in April, anyone who's VAT registered is going to have to comply with Making Tax Digital. That is basically making a lot of people reassess the way they do things. Most people are seeing this as an obstruction to their carrying on in business, but we actually see this as a great opportunity because a solid accounts platform lets you do a lot of things. So this isn't actually a software demo, really. Xero is our preferred accounting software that we recommend to most businesses. But to be fair, what we're talking about today will apply to any business, no matter how you keep your records. We are going to use Xero for the illustrations that we're talking about today, though. After I've taken you through some basic cash flow tips, Nick will be taking you through how to use the dashboard in Xero to help you see how your business is doing. We're also joined today by Hannah from Chaser. Basically, once you've got an understanding on the cash flow available to your business, what you'll probably realize is one of the key things you want to do is make sure you're getting paid by your customers and your clients. If you're not getting paid, all the cash flow planning in the world won't make any difference. So Hannah is going to show you how you can immediately take advantage of having a solid accounts platform that is cloud-based. And this is one of the immediate opportunities you get from using cloud-based software. We're also joined by Amy from Capitalize. Now, it would be easy to assume that because you've got your basic housekeeping in place and that you ask for money from your clients and customers, you've got nothing else to worry about. If only life was that easy. There'll still be times, though, where you need to raise capital and improve your cash flow outside of your normal controls. It could be that you see a rough patch coming up, something happens that you need to just have a little bit of help to get around, or it could be that you want to fuel growth within your business, or you might want to buy a shiny fleet of new vans or something like that. Anyway, Amy is going to take through the working relationship that we have with Capitalize here at Robson Laidler to basically give you options for raising finance. So I'll just take you through some basic housekeeping. So basically, why am I showing you a slide that says quotes, invoices and terms? Well, quite simply, it's that you need to quit probably a lot of the things you do currently, and you need to think about working in a better way. So when pricing for work, you need to make sure your quotes are clear to avoid the chance of any scope creep. So if you quote for building a wall, make sure you build a wall and nothing else. You don't lawn the garden while you're on. You've got to make sure that anything that could be disputed is cleared up straight away in that initial quote. All of the things you want to quote for are clear, and that you get a clear acceptance of that quote from the customer or client. If you don't have that, it's very hard down the line to come back to that point and say, we've delivered exactly what we said, you need to pay exactly what we said. As soon as you finish the work, of course, you need to then get an invoice raised. How many times have you had a trades in particular are great at this. A trade will come out, do a job on the 1st of the month. They'll raise an invoice on the 30th of the month, and the terms on the invoice will say payment same day. So they've waited 4 weeks to invoice, but then expect the payment the same day. If you're in the trades, why not just raise the invoice on the day you do the work? Nice and simple, and and give people 7 days, something like that. It's much more efficient and it's a bit easier for the customer to swallow. Again, set out in the quote when you're going to raise the invoice and tell them what the payment terms are straight away. If you're expecting deposits, make sure that's clear from the quote. In terms is then quite simple as well. You've got to make sure that from the off, everyone knows what you're doing, what it'll cost them, who owns the goods until payment has been received, how you expect to get paid and when you expect to get paid. Get this agreed at the quote stage. It's no good waiting until after the dispute has arisen before you try to work these things out. If you go to a solicitor to ask for a trace on a payment, they will straight away ask you for all of this information. So why not use a platform that can help you deliver these things from the off, nice and simple. Xero as a platform can automate all of the above, and it will basically make sure that you attach your terms and conditions to every quote you send. It lets you track which quotes have been accepted, so you only start work once an acceptance has been received. You just got to make sure that you don't start work on a job until you've got an accepted quote. So basically, if you get over those basic housekeeping skills, you should be all right. I'm going to pass you over to Nick Wilson now, who's going to take you through Xero dashboard. Thanks, Nick.
Hi, everyone. So yeah, as Martin's just said, the fundamental thing to making sure the business works well from a cash flow perspective is to have all of the information at your fingertips. So on the screen now, you'll see the dashboard in Xero. So this is the screen that you're presented with as soon as you log in. And what we've done is we've put some information in there to show you a real life scenario, basically. So the first thing that you notice is the bank account. The bank account has two balances on. It has the statement balance and the balance in Xero. You'll notice there's a discrepancy there between the two. And the reason for that is there's 28 items waiting to be reconciled. So it's also worth noting here, just having an accounting system that you say you use isn't good enough. You actually have to use it. So you have to make sure that you do raise your quotes, your invoices through it, but also reconcile the bank. Because if there's any problems, that will be highlighted straight away. So at the moment, it says there's £28,000 in the bank. Most people will run a business like that. I've got some money in the bank. I can do some investment. I can buy a van if I need to. And they start to forget about the bills that they need to pay. Most people have a rough idea of what they need to pay, but can often forget the smaller ones. And the small invoices can still mount up to a considerable balance. So as you can see there, there's still £7,500 that they need to pay from that 28 grand balance. Immediately buying that van becomes a bit of a problem. On the other hand, you've also got some invoices that are owed to you. Now, assuming everybody pays on time, that's £11,000 worth of cash that's going to come in. But right there in red, just over £7,000 is overdue. Now, what happens if the other 5 invoices become overdue? Suddenly you're in a position where you're not getting money in, but you're paying a lot of money out. And down at the bottom left of the screen, what I've highlighted here is, it's in the account watch list, and it's basically the regular payments a business has to make. And most of these are due to HMRC or employees. Pretty much the people you don't want to mess with, because that's how you run a business with your employees, and you don't want HMRC on your back. So the total of those balances comes to about 32,000. Now, if you were to add your bank balance and the money that you expect to be paid from your customers and deduct the bills that you need to pay and the expenses to HMRC and employees, you're actually £1,000 negative. So having full transparency of these figures is really important. Now, what happens in real life is you might be presented with this scenario, but you don't get the money in off your customers. So instantly you start thinking of people that you don't pay to try and manage cash flow. Now, if you don't pay a key supplier, they're going to stop providing you with the goods or service that you need to continue trading. If you don't pay your employees, they're probably going to walk out, or they won't be very productive, the quality slips. And if you don't pay HMRC, they could investigate, which leads to more disturbances in the business, all of which you don't really want. So I suppose the key message here is making sure all of these cogs turn properly by getting your money in when you expect it. So that leads me nicely on to introducing
Hannah.
Hannah.
Hannah from Chaser. Hi, Hannah.
Great, thanks Martin and Nick. So yeah, I'm thrilled to tell you guys a little bit more about Chaser and how it can help solve those cash flow issues and also save you time as well. So as Nick said earlier, it can be pretty disheartening and confusing to look at your bank account and know it's inaccurate due to unpaid invoices. So at Chaser, what we aim to do is to solve this by effectively overhauling your credit control process and ensuring that you are actually getting paid for the work that you're doing. And if this is something that you're experiencing, you're absolutely not alone in this. And in fact, nearly £25,000 is owed to the average SME in the UK due to late payments, and that lack of cash flow is there's a huge impact to that because it stifles growth, and the impact can kind of be anything from you not being able to buy a piece of equipment that you need for your business to kind of worst case, which is obviously businesses shutting down, which is unfortunately what happens to up to 50,000 businesses, SMEs in the UK each year. So what can Chaser do to help? So Chaser is the market leader in cloud credit control software, and our platform will help you to automate your invoice chasing, but while maintaining that human touch, is human-centric automation, all with a seamless integration with Xero, as well as QuickBooks Online and also Sage Business Cloud Accounting. So you might be wondering why exactly you're not getting paid, and that's a really great question. And actually, we found that there are three types of late payers: the delinquents, accidentals, and deliberates. So delinquents, they're just the customers who, unfortunately, due to their own cash flow issues, they're unable to pay. There's not a huge amount you can do about this group, unfortunately. Then you have accidental, so people who just forgot that an invoice was due and probably had very good intentions. So this is the type of group where polite persistence will really be very effective. And then we have deliberate. So these are the customers who are purposefully avoiding paying you. They're keeping the cash themselves. So again, this is another group where polite persistence will pay, because it will prompt them to kind of justify why exactly they are withholding payment when they definitely shouldn't be. So on that polite persistence, okay, well, we definitely understand that asking for money is a very awkward subject, but if you don't do it, then if you don't keep up with chasing for payments, your customers may get used to paying late, or worse, not at all, which is absolutely not what we want, because the impact of that could just be a lot more stress for you and for your business, and uncertainty, which we definitely don't want. So ensuring that you are maintaining a polite approach to all communications using Chaser will ensure that your customers essentially can't justify not paying you, or taking offense because you've been very polite about it. So one of the core pillars of Chaser is our automated humanity, because I'm sure you'll agree that clear signs of automation aren't great. They can damage customer relationships and reduce reply and payment rates. I'm sure most people will tend to ignore any automated email they receive. So that's why we've designed our software to basically help you personalize it as much as possible, because it can help you to essentially reflect what you would do if you were doing this all manually. So you can reflect all chase will be sent from an email address that reflects your own. You can pop in your own email signature, and you can customize all templates so that they reflect your usual kind of linguistic style and correspondence style. So it'll look as if each chase that you're sending to your customers when you're chasing for payment, it looks and feels like a handwritten email. So the last thing that we want any customers is to be annoyed because they're receiving multiple emails for multiple overdue invoices. I'm sure you've got several customers of yours who owe more than one invoice, and most automated systems would send multiple emails for invoice invoice that is overdue. But this is again kind of where our automated humanity kicks in, because in Chaser you are able to automatically group multiple overdue invoices into the same chase that you're sending, and you can even attach each invoice as well, so your customers really don't have any excuse not to pay. They've got all the information that they need in one an easy email. And then once you've received payment, we definitely appreciate that. It's really important to kind of acknowledge that payment for repeated business. They might not have paid you on time, but we do want to still have good relationships with customers. So Chaser makes that kind of acknowledgement really easy by automating it. So what we have in the platform is the ability to send a thank you message within 24 hours of receiving payment, which is a nice little touch to, again, just make sure we are strengthening and maintaining great relationships with customers. So research has shown that up to 80% of overdue invoices can be collected just by email chasing, which is a pretty staggering percentage. But that does then leave 20%, which, might require human intervention. So because you can automate that 80% away, let Chaser handle it, you can then spend your time much more valuably on chasing those 20% of invoices, which, as I said, will need that human intervention. So such as a phone call in order for them to pay you. So there you go. Okay, and so with that as well, to help you kind of stay on top of that and help you when you're sort of making those calls and making sure your credit control process is as effective as possible. In the platform, we've got a full built-in CRM tool, which will enable you to log all inbound communications and outbound as well for every customer and every invoice or replies or chases are logged in the platform. So you and anyone in your team can log into Chaser and see all the information that they need. And you can even add notes and expected payment dates. So this will enable you to kind of, again, keep the information nice and easy accessible in one location. If you've had a phone call with a client and they said, I'm sorry, I can't pay you until next week, then you can log it in there. And again, your team can stay on top of it. And you can then make all those calls to that maybe a 20% of customers who need that human intervention, armed with all the information that you need to, again, make sure that you are being as effective as possible when chasing for payment. So the impact of that is that the average Chaser user gets paid 16 days earlier, which results in a cash flow boost of £4,400 for every £100,000 of turnover. And then, as well as that cash flow boost, you can also save on average 7.3 hours a week on your credit control, which is, again, a really huge amount of time which could be spent much more valuably elsewhere. Maybe that's starting a project that you've been putting off because you've not had time, doing training, whatever it is that you'd like to do. You can do it now using the time that you'll save when using Chaser. So we're really proud to say that consistently providing these results to SMEs has culminated in Chaser winning several industry awards. For example, we were Accounting Web's Cloud App of the Year 2 years in a row against some of the fantastic finalists. We were Xero's App Partner of the Year in 2016. And we also have a perfect 5-star rating across over 300 reviews. So we take really great pride in that, of being the best in class in what we do. So how do we work with Robson Laidler? So we work really closely to help bring you and your business these fantastic benefits. So the team at Robson Laidler are Chaser certified, so they will help to make sure that you are fully trained and that your account is all set up correctly. So they'll help with the setup, making sure that it's optimized for your business. They'll be able to answer any questions that you have and just ultimately ensure that everything is running as smoothly as possible so that you are going to get those unpaid invoices paid. And we have a really fantastic example of a testimonial from one of Robson Laidler's clients who's only very recently started using Chaser. And as you can see, within just 20 minutes of using Robson Laidler's chasing method, they received replies and actually throughout the day received 5 payments, which is a really fantastic success and great to hear. Okay, so now I'm going to pass you on to Amy from Capitalise, who will show you what to do if you've gotten your credit control in order, but you still need to get some more cash.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the intro. And yes, so at Capitalize, we have partnered with Robson Laidler to enable their clients to raise cash. So in the life cycle of a business, there will be multiple times where you are actually looking to raise money. And so through that, there are certain behaviors that business owners exhibit that work against them. So as you can see, that 1/3 of payments in the UK are, oh, 1/3 of payments in the UK are late, which if Chaser has helped you with that and you're still looking to raise more, there are a few behaviors that will work against the owners. So typically, if you have to pay payroll on Friday, or if you've got a new job starting and you need to buy new supplies, business owners will spend 7 days. They will give themselves 7 days to raise the funding that they need in the bank. They'll typically look 1 hour for what kind of funding they need, and 80% will only apply to one lender, which is their bank. Now, the reality of this is that 80% of businesses are profitable, so they can get finance, but 62% don't produce regular management accounts, and 78% hold them less than £10,000 in their bank at any given time. So this is saying that a lot of people walk the line between being able to actually afford the things that they need and not be able to afford them. And so out of the 360 lenders in the UK, 90% historically has been done through the banks. But post-2008, the banks have been lending a lot less, and it tends to be in the SME space, along with having 16,000 bank branches closed down in the UK in the last 20 years. So SMEs are having trouble navigating this market. Now, when you're talking about raising funding, there are certain times in the life cycle of the business that this will come up. So cash flow funding. So this is day-to-day running costs. So employee wages, overheads, and then you have your growth funding needs. So this is when you're really looking to take the business to the next level. You want to hire new staff. You might want to purchase new equipment so that you are able to manufacture more. You could potentially be getting in big orders, but you actually need cash to be able to fulfill them. So it becomes a chicken or the egg situation. There's the business shocks funding, where potentially you do have the late client payments. And if Chaser hasn't worked to get it in, all of a sudden you've got a high tax bill to pay and you need to raise some cash. It could be some of your equipment breaks down. Potentially you need to get a new set of vans for some reason because you're having mechanical issues with the old one. Or if you have a seasonal business and you're hit by a heat wave or something that's out of your control, your business could be going into shock. So these are the more reactive situations. And then you've got your emergency funding, which is basically, if you don't get the cash in, there are large repercussions, such as Nick was saying earlier, HMRC coming after you. Potentially, they don't want a time to pay agreement. And if you don't have the money to cover that, your business might be going under. The final time that you might be actually looking to raise cash would be through your corporate finance. So typically, these are larger, more complicated transactions where it's buying and selling of businesses. So across that, being complicated enough trying to raise this, in the UK, there are 360 lenders alone. And this is a really tough market to navigate. So if you can see, pre-2001, there was a select few, and you'll see a few of the big banks on there and lenders who have been around for a long time. Starts to grow a little bit. Post-2008, the market just completely blew up. A lot of people were looking to deploy their capital in new ways. And because banks were pulling back, there was an opportunity for other people to get into the market for the first time in a very long time. Across these across these 360 lenders, there's also over 3,000 products available to SMEs, which can put you in a position where every single one of these people will be trying to sell you their product, whether it's the best fit or not. And this can put you in a position where it's a very, very tough market to navigate. And so working with your accountant to actually talk about raising capital has been proven to be 4 times more successful. So we work with Robson Laidler on the back end. We have 105 institutional lenders, and so when you're looking at raising capital, speaking to your accountant, they can advise you on the best types that'll be available for your business. They understand the ins and outs of how it works and the maturity cycle of a business from startup through to exit. And for 50% of businesses in that journey, borrowing is a very important part of that life cycle, because that's how many businesses will borrow. So at Capitalize, we cover the entire lending spectrum. So there's a few different types of finance that are available to you as businesses. So trade finance, if you import, export, property finance, whether you're looking to take the business to the next level by buying your first property or going into a different premises, if you're looking to develop a new site and resell it on, we can help there. Asset finance, this comes down to being proactive, as was discussed earlier in the webinar about why don't you take that car out on finance as opposed to taking it out of your cash flow. So we can do hire purchase, contract hire, finance lease. And this doesn't just need to be vehicles. This can also be manufacturing machinery. You can get office furniture on asset finance. There's so many creative ways to actually extend the payments out on that over time, so you're not taking the immediate hit if you want to actually get some new stuff into the business. Merchant cash advance, this is using basically a split out of the card payments you take in through a card terminal, and you can pay that back over time. So for anybody in the hospitality industry where you potentially have really big peaks and troughs, this can be a really good way to not have big hits on your cash flow month on month if you have quieter months. Invoice finance, this can be actually getting your invoices in earlier if you are looking to grow the business and you have a good debtor book to leverage. And then working capital finance, so this is your day-to-day growth loans, secured, unsecured loans, which can just cover multiple of costs across the industry. So from this, we've actually developed a business finance guide that goes into all these products in a little bit more detail with Robson Laidler. And so after the webinar, everybody will be receiving a copy of that.
Thanks for that, Amy, and thank you, Hannah, as well. So we're gonna basically start wrapping this up now. What I'd ask you first of all, though, is if you've got any questions or anything you'd like to just clear up with any of the speakers while they're on the screen now, use the Q&A box at the bottom of the screen. If you post your questions, we'll collate them and we'll try and answer where we can. We'll try and do that now. Now, we did say as well, anyone who participates, we have an offer. So Amy's just said that everyone will get the business finance guide. We'll send that out to anyone who's been watching this afternoon. What you'll also get, though, is we're actually going to do free setup and give everyone a couple of months free use of Chaser. So basically, you've seen earlier where the example from Marcus at Future Plum there, basically they turned it on and they started getting hits straight away. And what it shows really is if you ask for your money, you're more likely to get it. And what this does is it gives you a simple way to make sure you regularly ask for your own money. Now, you know, it's not impolite to ask for your own money, but there is good form and bad form, and this is a good example of good form. This is how to get the money in. So basically, if you want to take up the offer, if you just use the link on the screen there, and just use the contact form on our website, or if you want to just put it into the Q&A box or the chat box on the screen here, just put Robbie March 19, and we'll be in touch with the offer to set up Chaser and give you a couple of months free use. So yeah, if anyone's got any questions, we're going to open that up to everyone now. I think Hannah has been collating the questions. Is that right, Hannah?
Yeah, cool. So I've got a few questions come through, and then if we give it another few minutes, anyone who has any more questions, just shoot them through to the Q&A box, and we'll get to as many as we can. But to kick it off from the ones we have now, there's a question here for Nick and Martin, you guys. Do you offer support or training for these apps, so for Chaser or Capitalize?
Yeah, I mean, if we take that on, so basically what we do is we would normally start with a business and carry out a system review. We'd look at the way you keep your accounts. We'd look at the things that you're not doing efficiently and look for areas to basically improve what you do. What I tend to say to people is if you haven't changed the way you keep your records within the last couple of years, you're probably not being efficient. And the reason for that is the things that are available now are often far more efficient than what was available when you originally set your records up. Within that, we would look, and if Chaser is suitable for your business, we would recommend Chaser. If you're in the type of industry that simply doesn't have customers that owe you money, then of course it wouldn't be on that list. But yeah, we can basically offer the support, we offer the setup. On the training, yeah, we offer the specific training to your business. But what you'll also find now is all of these platforms have fantastic help built right into the kind of the browser. So if you're not sure how to do something, it's normally very obvious. If that doesn't answer, then yes, we're here to hold your hand.
Great. Cool. So I have another question come through here for you, Amy. I have a loan from my business bank. Would Capitalize be able to find a better deal to pay this off and increase our working capital?
Hopefully. It depends on the rates that you have from your bank, but what we do is working with your accountant, we'll actually put it out between 2 and 4 lenders in the market. So what we want to do is not just go to one lender like what 80% of businesses do. We want to go and explore different rates, get you different offers, talk about different hooks, because potentially it could also be that different loans are suited to different businesses. So if you can make overpayments as opposed to having a monthly fixed payment and pay down the debt earlier, you're paying less interest as well. So through that, potentially you might have the best offer that you can get now, but you don't know unless you actually explore it, what else is out there, because rates are changing all the time too. So as people raise different forms of finance to lend or banks develop new products, there could be something cheaper in the market.
Great, thanks, Amy. We have one here for Hannah from Chaser. So how does Chaser differ from Xero's invoice reminders if I'm already using that?
Yeah, it's a really great question. And at Chaser, we focus primarily on automated credit controls. So as hopefully you all seen, in the platform there are loads of features to basically help you personalize it a lot more. So as I said, all chasers are sent from an email address that reflects your own. You can add your email signature, create as many different templates as you would like that reflect your regular communication style. And one of the main things that kind of differs is our built-in CRM tool, because it enables you to keep a full record of all invoice communications. Like I said, you can update the expected payment date. Once if you've had a response from a customer who said that unfortunately they can't pay until, I don't know, end of the month. And as well as that, you can kind of create and customize different schedules so that you are chasing different customers at different kind of frequencies. So, your worst payers, you're probably going to chase a little bit more aggressively and maybe use more harsher wording than you would to a good payer, those accidentals who maybe just forgot to pay and are generally pretty good. So that's just a few of the ways that it differs, but ultimately it's just the ability to personalize it much more so that it's like human-centric automation as opposed to just receiving automated reminders, which most people will ultimately ignore.
Great, thanks. And I just quickly have another one that I think feeds into that. So how do other people in my business know what is happening with debts that are being chased using Chaser?
Yep. So like I say, as I was mentioning before, it's using the CRM tool. So as long as they are set up as a user on Chaser, then they anyone in your team who is involved in chasing debts can log in and access all the information in Chaser, so that they can adjust the process. Maybe it's making a call. So as I said, yeah, we're using the information in the CRM tool, the information on each customer invoice page, and also we've got reporting features as well, which again, paired with kind of Robson Lader, will be able to help you kind of make best use of that data, so that again you can adjust your credit control process so it's going to be as effective as possible for the different types of customers that you have.
Great, sounds good. There's another one here for you guys at Robson Lader, actually. How long does it take to set up Xero, and I guess to get it all synced up and working?
Yeah, thanks for that. The setup of Xero, of course, depends on how complex your business is. If you've got a relatively simple business, then what we can normally do is take your existing records and basically import them into Xero, so you can get up and running probably within a few days of the process starting. What you would normally do is you'd normally pick an ideal time. So most people have March year ends or 5th of April year ends. If you're looking to start this process now, what I would suggest is you get up and running from the start of your next, you're basically the first day of your next year end.
Or VAT quarters.
Or VAT quarters, as Nick has kindly added in there. So yeah, if you're a VAT registered business, then you would also want to make sure you start within the start of a new VAT period, so that your VAT is all sorted out.
As well as just changing the software though, the biggest part of changing to Xero is the training. So again, we provide training on using the systems together most effectively and efficiently. And this is done over a couple of sessions. So I like to make sure we come out before the system goes live and give you the basic tools to understand how to use it and get the most from it. And then about a week after it's went live, we'll come back out and we'll just guide you back on the right path and teach you all the little things. Until you start using the system properly, you can't really have a good bank of questions to ask us. And with demo data, it's all hypothetical and doesn't really have the same impact. So it's not the transferring onto the system that's the hardest. It's getting to know the system and how to use it that we place the most time on.
I think it's just worth saying, once you have an up-to-date accounts platform, turning on things like Chaser, or then using that information to collaborate with Capitalise for lending decisions, is much easier. So right at the very start, the demo we gave had something like 18 or 28 transactions that weren't reconciled. If you're not up to date, everything is harder. Whether that's approaching the bank for a mortgage, chasing your clients, figuring out how much you've got to spend on the van, or trying to raise money. So to be honest, it's not just a case of getting on Xero. We then, once you're up to date, we then look at the other things you can do with that data.
Great, that sounds great. We've just got one last question here. If anyone does have any other burning questions, if you get them through now, we should be able to get them. But this is the last one we have for the minute, which is for Amy, actually. How long does it normally take, and what information needs to be provided to raise some cash?
It really depends on how long it takes. If all the information is given at the beginning, and it's an issue of time, we can get offers out within 24, 48 hours, and have money in the bank. But if you want to give yourself a better chance of getting cheaper, better finance, I'd say give yourself a month until you know that you need the money in the bank. It just gives you time to work with people who might have a little bit of a longer process, but have the ability to offer better cost of funds. And information that's required, it'll be quite standard stuff that's to hand that Robson Laidler or yourself will have. That'll be like your last filed accounts so they can gauge business performance, bank statements so they can see what's going on in the bank accounts, but also what existing debt there is. VAT returns for the last 4 quarters, just to get an idea of what business performance has been like since accounts were filed. Potentially, if it's invoice finance, a copy of your age debtor report, asset finance, it'll be a quote for the asset, but quite standard stuff, I would say.
Great, thank you. Cool, so I think that's all the questions we have. If you do have any questions that you don't want to ask here, if you shoot an email through to the guys at Robson Laidler, they'll be able to answer them for you. But other than that, I'll pass back to Martin just to wrap things up.
Thanks for that. So yeah, that brings to an end our Cash is King webinar. Don't forget, if you want to take up a free trial of Chase there, please just drop us the message, Robbie March 19. You know a lot of the people who've been on here anyway, so just get in touch through your normal channels. Also, don't forget, we'll be sending out the Capitalize kind of business finance guide, which will come out as well. But meanwhile, thanks very much, and thank you everyone for attending. Appreciate it.